There's been a series of events that have happened recently that have made me more bullish, believe it or not, in this market than I've ever been. And so the question that many of you are asking me is, Kyle, is it time to ape all in? And that's a really good question. So today we're going to dive in deep and answer that for you. So if you're sitting on the sidelines and you have some extra cash sitting around and you're wondering, should I go all in right now? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on today's show. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into this. Where we are right now is essentially Bitcoin is back up over 10,000 points since its low a few days ago. And it's what I've been saying for a very long time, guys, is we probably have bottomed right around back here, right? Real quick, we are back in this range, and I expect us to be back in this range as well. And we have some big overhang events. Now, what was once $8 billion on this Mt. Gox, I think is now $9 billion because, well, the price of Bitcoin has gone up significantly. Now, if we go over here and we look at this, we just see Kraken has received the Mt. Gox Bitcoin that's owed to them. And this is due to start being paid out in 1 to 2 weeks. And we also have another major event coming up soon. But before we get into that, I want to tell you guys that James Van Straten over here says, remember that the market absorbed 1 million Bitcoin from December 23rd to April 24th from grayscale and long-term holders. We just witnessed the market absorb 50,000 Bitcoin of sell-side pressure from the Germans. Dumb Germans, really, really dumb move from you guys. Market will absorb the sell-side pressure from Mt. Gox, and we're looking forward to this overhang being gone. This will be the most bullish catalyst ever. But until then, guys, what's been happening? Well, the dip has been being eaten up like crazy with the Bitcoin ETFs. They're back in full force. And yesterday, we can see there's $422 million of net inflows in that one day alone. That's right, guys, nearly $500 million in net inflows from the past day in the Bitcoin ETFs. Well, you can see over here, Eric Balkuda says the Bitcoin ETFs are in 2 steps forward mode after 1 step back in June, with another $300 million yesterday and $1 billion for the week. Guys, kind of old news as well. As we see over here, the past 8 trading days have seen nearly $2 billion in ETF net inflows. This is ridiculously bullish behavior. As I said on X, guys, I've been dropping all kinds of alpha over on X. If you're not following me there, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? And in fact, do us all a favor and destroy that like button. It helps the channel. If you hit that bell notification button so that you can make sure that you get these videos as soon as I release them, as they are often time sensitive. Moving right along here, we could see that while you were scared, as Vivek for real says, whales bought $4.3 billion worth of Bitcoin. They are not holding back. As always, remember to watch what the smart money is doing, not what the price might tell you at the moment, because while you were scared, the whales and long-term holders were buying. And check this out, guys. We always know that the printing of stablecoin is very bullish for the market. Just yesterday, we saw that there was $1 billion of USDT printed, which is nuts, which is going into the market. Now, Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers, said Bitcoin is fascinating. Fascinating. He was referring to this. He shared this.
Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means, so you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of a deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. Right. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence.
Okay, anyway, that's the point. Larry Fink coming on and saying that essentially he is extremely bullish, and Michael Dell saying that this is fascinating that Larry Fink is so bullish on Bitcoin and admitting that while he was once very pessimistic, is now very optimistic. Huge news, guys. Remember just last week, I was saying that we saw fear and greed at 28. And now we're back at 65, which is nuts. Should you be aping in right now or conservative? Well, we're going to answer that question in just a bit, but I've showed you this chart a few times. Now, Benjamin Cohen says, Bitcoin ROI from low shows Bitcoin is right around where it is normally at this point in the cycle. Again, this chart, this purple line is where we are now, right before it massively heads up. But it's not quite there yet, right? This kind of sideways low coming down, and that's kind of the point I want to make over here. If you're asking me really what's going to happen here, the whales have been buying in. We have the Ethereum ETF is going to start trading soon. BlackRock, Larry Fink coming out saying massively bullish. So everything seems super, super bullish, right? What else can be bullish? Well, we have this over here. Donald Trump announcing JD Vance as his vice president candidate. Now, Politico publication says Vance floats crypto plan. So Vance, JD Vance, is very, very pro crypto. I will just show you this video coming up soon. But essentially, Eleanor Terrett says the Republican ticket in 2024 presidential election is pro crypto. Trump's running mate is JD Vance, is a strong pro crypto record. He voted to repeal SAB 21, which we've talked about here on the channel, slammed the SEC for the debt box incident, which essentially was when the judges and everything called the SEC abusive and making up fraudulent stuff in order to try to win their case, which was ultimately dropped against debt box. And in 2023, he introduced a bill to improve bank regulation and make sure customers like crypto firms and gun manufacturers are not discriminated against. Thank you. And in 2022, Vance disclosed Bitcoin holdings of up to $250,000. That's worth about $455,000 today. Vance is holding in Bitcoin, super bullish. Now, this is JD Vance here in a lecture. Listen to what he has to say.
If there's a candidate for worst person, in my view, at least in terms of my substantive disagreements, I'm sure he's like a nice guy, is Gary Gensler. Okay, so Gary Gensler is sort of the complete opposite of my view. And there are two problems that I have with Gary. One of which is that I think he wants to inject politics way too much into the actual business of securities in the United States of America. But in some ways, the more fundamental issue, or at least the most relevant issue for this particular conference is the approach that Gary has taken to regulating blockchain and crypto seems to be almost the exact opposite of what it should be. And I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but the question the SEC seems to ask in regulating crypto is this a token with utility? And if it's a token with utility, then they seem to want to ban it. And if it's a token without utility, they don't seem to care. I almost think we should be the opposite here, right? I worry about financialization. I worry about, frankly, whether a lot of the crypto stuff is fundamentally fake. But if a token actually has utility, that's the sort of thing that, by all means, regulate it. By all means, be careful about, how consumers interact with it. But you don't want to just get rid of this stuff. And here's where I really, really worry about this is a lot of the newest challengers to social media, the social media incumbents of 2024, are going to require some blockchain technology to make their business work. Maybe they'll require a token that supports verification.
That is the proposed new vice president VP. Let's give it up. Very nice choice. Very nice choice. We are bullish on this. Very, very, very bullish. And as you guys have seen, of course, this chart, as I've showed you several times here on the channel, as we see, we're coming up into the election. This blue line is election date. What has happened to each subsequent election, you might ask? Oh, that's this parabolic run over here, by the way. Parabolic run, by the way. You think this time's going to be any different? Absolutely not. And, of course, China, although they're not in the game yet, is pumping liquidity into their markets. They are pumping liquidity, a.k.a. quantitative easing, a.k.a. money printer go brr. And that could be bullish considering this. With speculation still on the rise about Bitcoin returning to China. Now, do you think China's just going to sit on the sideline and watch everyone else have a store of value, a protection against inflation, and what potentially could be the world reserve currency? I don't think so. In just over a week, Trump is going to put Bitcoin on the map amongst millions of Americans. His speech at the Bitcoin conference is going to be massive. And Trump is going to be speaking at the Bitcoin Nashville conference that's coming up very, very soon, just next week. That, of course, is going to be huge. And he's got a bunch of support coming from a bunch of his advisors. So this is very, very bullish. And Trump says he wants US in charge of crypto before China teases another NFT launch. And this is good. Trump says that he wants to make mining, he wants America to mine every last Bitcoin. He wants us to be ahead of the game when it comes to China. And this is why I think that we're in somewhat potentially of coming into maybe a crypto and Bitcoin cold war between the East and the West. Can you imagine if that actually happens, if China enters in an aggressive way, and now you have the East versus West and who can accumulate the most Bitcoin? This very much could happen. Talk about supply crunch and supply squeeze. This could send Bitcoin raging if this happens. So speculation is still awry about China, but coming back to the economy in the West here, you have Benjamin Cowan coming and saying that it looks like the market is getting locked in for a rate cut in September. Currently 91.6 probability, huge. Rate cuts are bullish. They equal the market to go up. James Seyfarth says, looks like the launch date for Ethereum ETFs will be next week on Tuesday, July 23rd. While most of the crypto timeline remains incredibly bullish and everyone seems to be aping in right now, I would urge you guys to remain cautious. I'm not saying, I am extremely bullish on the market coming in September, let's say. However, I am cautious about the next month. Why? Because we have the grayscale overhang and people did take that trade. They will be taking profit, and you have the Mt. Gox selling that's going to happen here pretty soon as well. So those two things could happen next week as the Ethereum ETF starts to trade potentially on Tuesday. Also, we can start to see a lot of the Mt. Gox stuff also start to happen next week or the week after, which could lead to a pretty aggressive selling spree coming up. So I think that we could see a lot of volatility coming up, but I'll counter that with saying that people who sold the Bitcoin ETF would now be quite underwater. So if you're paying attention and you're watching what's happening, you would be dumb to sell the Ethereum ETF, but maybe people are going to do it anyway. So I wouldn't open up any crazy longs, but I would be dollar cost averaging in at this point, as I think that's the wisest thing to do, because potentially we could see something completely different, because people might learn from the Bitcoin ETFs and their mistake by selling, and they could be hodling this. And also, a lot of the Mt. Gox people are OGs. Hopefully they're not going to be selling and making dumb mistakes like Germany did, as Germany would have now like $1 billion more if they didn't sell like a bunch of idiots, $10,000 cheaper than they could have sold for now, when in fact they shouldn't have just been selling at all. They should have just been holding that, as it wouldn't even get them out of more than 3 weeks of debt by selling what they sold. So they made a big mistake, and I think a lot of people are going to anyway. So my point is, I do think that we're going to see the biggest bull run that we've ever seen in our lives, and probably this is going to be the biggest super cycle that crypto will ever see. So you're lucky that you're here. Pat yourself on the back. You're very fortunate. I think that once we get this overhang cleared away, the markets will love certainty. Don't forget the FTX stimulus coming, September, October, something like that. I expect from October onward for it to be incredibly bullish, to have a great end of the year and an amazing 2025, one that you do not want to miss. Guys, I'll catch you very, very soon. That's going to end it for today. Bye-bye.